Hi, everybody. I'm Elliot Brecht with Team Cheeky, and today for our panel video, I'm joined with Alex, Amanda, and Alejandra. And we wanted to discuss some of the points that you want to put into that industry professional resume. We all know that the CV is just too overwhelming. There's too much in there, and you need to target your resume for jobs. And we wanted to go over some of these details in there, and wanted to start off with Amanda, because she's got a really good point about what is that main difference between that industry professional resume and that CV that we're so used to utilizing as PhDs. Amanda, would you help sort of walk through some of the major overall differences that someone's going to have to remember?
Yeah, wouldn't mind at all, Elliot. Thanks for asking me. So as you all know, when you put together your academic CV, it's really about listing pretty much everything that you did, from papers published to presentations given, to committees that you've served on. And then as you work your way up, you'll have people that you've mentored that you may list on your academic CV. And while all of these things are accomplishments, and some of them might be things that you're really proud of, you may not want to put them on your resume depending on what job you're applying for. And in fact, with your resume, you want to keep it short and skimmable, and because the employer is going through a huge stack of these, and they're not going to spend the time to try to figure out how this experience that you've done is related to the job that you're applying for. If you don't make it clear for them, they're just going to toss your resume in the trash. So what you need to do is you really need to think about what is valuable for that role and make sure that the things you've done fit in with that role, and exclude things that may be really great accomplishments but may not be so exciting for the role that you're applying for. For example, you may have done something really cool in your PhD, like done a successful protein engineering project. But if you're applying to be a medical writer, they may not care about how innovative you were in the lab. Instead, you should talk more about your publications and writing experiences.
No, that's actually an excellent point, because when it's going through an HR person looking at it, they're going to spend about 6 seconds looking at it, trying to go over, just looking at the top, maybe skimming the side, looking at some of the things, and that's it. And they're not going to read those like large blocks of text that we're used to writing, because you go through and you want to, like, I did all these, I did, this skill, I utilized all these techniques, I became a master of, X, Y, and Z, like, look at all the things that I've done and accomplished. And you should be proud of them. Like, that's one of the things, is you definitely should be, because you've done so much, but it's just overwhelming and too much for someone to really look through in any sort of quick, easy fashion, because you said they're going to be looking through hundreds or thousands of these, and they're not going to have time to go through and read every single one. And on that sort of point, Alex, how do we then catch, the eye of that HR person? Why is it, important to make sure that we get them to see, and how do we do this?
Great question. Thank you, Elliot. So one of the best ways that you can make sure that your resume is seen is to make sure it's actually relevant for that position. So a lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to make one general resume with my summary section and, my different experiences, and I'm going to be good to go because it showcases everything I have and it puts it all out there. It has all my quantifiable results, where I've been, different titles I've had. But the problem with this is employers are now really looking for you to make a resume specifically for that position you're applying for. So you might be applying to a bunch of different scientist positions or bench positions, but what you need to look at is, what type of science do they do? Do they do protein work? Do they do viral work? Do they do cloning work? Do they do genetics? And you need to tailor your resume specifically for whichever sector that you are submitting that for. And you might think, well, that's really difficult. I don't know where to start. I don't know what they're looking for. But you do. You have the job description that they've put up there. They tell you exactly what they want you to put onto your resume. So what you can do is read through the job description and find all of the words that they keep saying over and over and over. And maybe, you know, they're not as, maybe this certain company isn't as focused on your technical ability with, you know, viral production here. They really want someone who's going to come on and be a team member. And that will be very apparent in the job description. They'll say a lot of, you know, collaborating, teamwork, interdepartmental collaboration, things like that. And if you pick up on those words, maybe you want to highlight some of those skills and experiences that you've had and take off one of those technical bullet points. And not only for similar positions, but also completely different positions. You'll want to tailor your resume completely differently. So someone who is a bench scientist, you might need to have more technical skills on your resume to apply for that position versus like a sales or an application scientist position where it's very customer facing and you need to show both facets of yourself. And so you really need to take a big delve and study that job description to get a better understanding for what they're looking for. And then you can put that into your resume. And hopefully those words will pop out at them and they'll call you in for an interview.
No, that's actually a great point. And some of the tools that we're always telling people to try and utilize for things like that is use something like Wordly or using a word cloud, go through and it'll pop out like what has, which shows up the most, and make sure you put those in those bullet points, that those are highlighted in there. And, when you're going for other positions, you mentioned more of sort of those R&D things, but if you wanted to go into something where it is management, you're going to do more of those collaborative things. If you want to go through in something like an MSL, you're going to be doing a lot more communication, a writer, all those papers you've written. Someone going into like data science, like they don't care, about the actual experiment they did. They want to know the programming that you did, how you did this critical thinking, these sort of the skills. And you've done all of these things while getting your PhD, you've done some of this data analysis. They don't care how you got the data, they want to know that how the data was collected, but then what did you do with it, and that's so you have to like make sure you hone in on those components. And Alejandra, how do you highlight and hone in on those exact components that they want to have in those resumes?
Yeah, thank you, Elliot. Actually, you use bullet points to explain, like to convey your experience. And this goes through both what Amanda said and what Alex said. Bullet points really help you target your experience to that position and that job description, while at the same time, they're not like heavy paragraphs that nobody's going to read through. And this is something we've said it before, but we have a very specific structure that we recommend to follow for your bullet points. It's transferable skills, which are, believe it or not, way more important than those technical skills. Then the technical skill in the middle, and finalize with a quantifiable result, because you need to show impact. That just saying that you can run Western blots doesn't mean anything. You need to say what did you do? Did you improve a process? Did it finalize with a publication? Did you create a new collaboration? Did you reduce cost? That's what's the important. That's your impact, and companies want that. They're going to hire you because of the impact you can have for them.
Yeah, that's very, very true. That's what they want. They want to see you being able to push, the company's end goals forward as well. And like how you've done that, like, writing a paper's accomplishment, posters, did you, utilize a new, data, scraping and reduce the, processing time, 5, 10, 50, 1,000%. Like, these are the things that like the companies want to know. Those are the things they want to see, is those results and things that you've done, and how it can then, forward to the the company and their goals as well. And one of those other things that people sort of forget, and I like to throw in at the end of, so one of those other things you want to put in your resume is something that actually also humanizes you. because you go through and when you're doing your CV and you're doing this, you're listing all the papers, posters, talks you did, all the details of everything you did, but you never in there include a hobby, something that actually makes you a well-rounded person. You might go over and you're only going to put in your professional your professional councils and meetings and groups that you're in, but you're not going to be like, oh, but I also love to, I'm also a lead person for this hiking organization, or I'm a striker for lacrosse, or for soccer, football. I do these other things that actually make me into a full, well-rounded human being, so I can then interact with the rest of the people in the organization, because they want to go over and yes, while you're at work, you're going to mostly talk about work, but you have to have at least something that you can talk about in that water cooler chat as well with people. And so you want to put in a little bit of that in there as well, just to make sure that you have those skills, you've targeted to the job, you've shown the measurable results, the increase in influence you can have on the company, and then something to make you a real person. And so,
Elliot, if you don't mind me interjecting, during a lot of my interviewing, people were most excited to ask me about my hobbies, because a lot of times they resonated well with the interviewer. So I had volunteering at an animal shelter, and I did salsa dancing and Zumba classes, and I actually got more excited questions from the interviewers by having those on there. So not only does it show you're well-rounded, but people love to talk about things, because just think about the people who are interviewing you. They have to interview so many people, and if they see this small thing that clicks and makes that connection with you, that could be the thing that makes them say, well, let's give this person a chance because we share a hobby.
Great point. I have the exact same experience. I always highlighted a few things on there, and that was what 50-60% of my questions were always about those hobbies, those things. Oh, okay, we see you got all the technical skills. Yeah, it's all right, that's good. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. But that's how it is. Well, all right. Well, that brings us to the end of this this panel with everybody. So we've highlighted a bunch of those things that you want to include in your resume and how you include them in there. You don't want to go through all those massive details. You want to make sure you're targeting it to the advert for that specific position. You want to go through and highlight those transferable skills with measurable results. Do something to make yourself into a real person. And we go into a lot more details of this within our flagship program, the Tiki Scientists Association, and you can go to PhDs, plural, PhDsGetHired.com to go find out some more information about how to join and what we offer in there and all of our other advanced programs. And I want everyone to remember and keep thinking like an industry professional, and just keeping that mindset in there as you go through, and remember your value as a PhD. Bye, everybody.